I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer discussed marriage equality on the Senate floor Tuesday. Last month, Justice Clarence Thomas suggested the court should reconsider rights like birth control and same-sex marriage in future decisions. And over the weekend, Senator Ted Cruz said that the Supreme Court was wrong when it legalized same-sex marriage in 2015. In response, Schumer said, quote, "Fresh off repealing the rights of every single woman in this country, MAGA Republicans now want to reopen the doors for discrimination and hatred targeted against same-sex couples." Here's more from the Senate Majority Leader.
Well, Mr. President, today's going to be an exceedingly busy and productive day on the Senate floor. Later today, after months of hard work and countless rounds of talks, senators will vote to move forward on legislation that our country desperately needs. A CHIPS bill that will lower costs, boost American manufacturing, and protect American security interests. Over the past 24 hours, both parties have continued working on the final details to the CHIPS package that we'll vote on later today. We will see if members can come to an agreement on adding other provisions to the bill, but the bottom line is that we must come up with a package that is capable of passing this chamber without delay. We must act as soon as we can to make sure we bring chip manufacturing back to America because our nation's security depends on it. I urge my colleagues, if you want to fight inflation, if you want to create more good-paying jobs right here at home, if you want to keep America strong and competitive and innovative in the 21st century so that we can lead the economy as we did in the 20th, then this CHIPS bill is the way to go. It is a very important bill. The chip shortage is one of the most damaging trends over the past few years. This technology, which originated, of course, right here in America, is the bedrock of much of modern life. Cars, refrigerators, cell phones, medical devices, they all depend on chips to function. But when chips suddenly become scarce, as is the case today, the consequences are felt across the board by companies, but by average Americans. Americans see higher prices and longer wait times for all sorts of consumer goods because of this chip shortage. Mr. President, it wasn't always this way, but thanks to the pandemic, this crisis is now being felt across the country. A quarter century ago, the United States was the undisputed leader in global chip production. In 1990, we produced 40%, nearly 40% of the world's semiconductors. Today, that figure is going down to 12%, and it'll get even lower if we don't pass this bill. We have a chance of leading the way on chip manufacturing once again if we pass this legislation. As we speak, the country's most important chip manufacturers, these are American companies, are waiting on congressional action, or mostly American companies, not all, but they're waiting on congressional action before they decide where to invest in chip production. From Asia to Europe, other nations have copied the American playbook and have already invested billions of dollars to incentivize chip manufacturers to come to them. If we do not match the efforts of other countries to boost chip manufacturing, the consequences could be dire and long-lasting. Countless of good-paying American jobs are on the line. Costs that Americans are now paying, higher costs, getting them lower, is now on the line. Billions of dollars in economic activity is on the line. And our national security is on the line. As Secretary Austin and Secretary Raimondo told us last week, our economic and national security depends on our ability to invest in the technologies of today and tomorrow. If we allow other nations to lead the way on chips, the days of America leading the world in scientific innovation, the days of America being the leading economic and military power in the world may actually be over. Nobody wants that. So vote for this bill. This is a future none of us want to see. Again, vote for this bill. I urge my colleagues to move forward later today. Now on judges. As we move forward on legislation to boost chip manufacturing, there's a lot to do on the nominations front, too. Let me start with a very important number, 73. Let me say that again, 73. That is the total number of judges that the Senate will hopefully have confirmed by the end of today. A year and a half into President Biden's term, that is nothing short of a towering achievement. Here's how we'll reach that figure today. Later this morning, the Senate will vote to confirm Nina Nin Yuan Wang as U.S. District Court Judge for the District of Colorado. This afternoon, we will hold a confirmation vote on Nancy Maldonado for the Northern District of Illinois. I expect these well-qualified nominees to move through this chamber with bipartisan support. And as soon as today, the Senate will also vote on the confirmation of Judge Michelle Childs of South Carolina to serve on the D.C. Circuit. Judge Childs will be the fourth, only the fourth Black woman to ever sit on the D.C. Circuit, founded nearly 130 years ago. Confirming this remarkable jurist is an important step to reversing generations of underrepresentation and making our courts better reflect the nation. Let's not forget, after the Supreme Court, the D.C. Court of Appeals is the most important federal court in the country, regularly taking up cases that the Supreme Court is unable to consider. Oftentimes, the D.C. Circuit makes the final decision on some of the most important cases in the country, particularly those involving Congress and the executive branch. It is a really important court. Remember, the Supreme Court only hears about 75 cases a year, so lots of very vital cases are decided by this Circuit Court of Appeals. The judges who preside on the D.C. Circuit must be individuals of high character and unassailable qualification. And that's precisely what we have in Judge Childs. She's a native of Detroit, a graduate of the University of South Florida, South Carolina, and Duke. Judge Childs built a reputation as both a trailblazing jurist and a staunch defender of the Constitution. She already commands strong bipartisan support from both sides of the aisle, and I thank my Democratic and Republican colleagues for their support of the judge. As the Senate continues to fulfill its duty of confirming more qualified judges, we hope the trailblazers of today can be closer to the norm of tomorrow. We want our courts to include more women, more diverse candidates, both demographically and professionally, and more judges who come from unique backgrounds. Our courts, our democracy, and the American people will be better off for these efforts. There's not a doubt in my mind Judge Childs will help advance this noble goal. I look forward to her final confirmation. And finally, on marriage equality. This week, the House of Representatives is scheduled to vote on two pieces of legislation that will enshrine some of the most fundamental rights that every American should enjoy: the right to marriage equality and the access to contraceptives. These votes come at a disturbing and dangerous moment for our country. A few weeks ago, the Supreme Court concluded one of its worst and most destructive terms in history. Casting aside a half-century of precedent, a conservative majority on the court shamefully and disgustingly eliminated the fundamental right of women to make their own decisions regarding their bodies. It's a decision that will live in infamy, an indelible stain on the legacy of the highest court in the land that will not be erased. Alarmingly, the nightmare is very far likely from over. The MAGA Republicans on the court and the MAGA radicals that are taking over the Republican Party have made it abundantly clear they are not satisfied with repealing Roe. As I said, it's an indelible stain, and the attempts by some to talk it away and erase it will not happen because it's such a bad stain. Anyway, the MAGA Republicans that are taking over the Republican Party have made it abundantly clear they're not satisfied with repealing Roe. As many have openly said, they have now turned their attention on the Obergefell decision and marriage equality. A few days ago, the junior senator from Texas said the Supreme Court's decision protecting marriage equality was clearly wrong and argued that partisan state legislatures to determine who can and cannot get married. Other MAGA Republicans have echoed the same thing. We need to pause and think about how unhinged this idea is. Fresh off repealing the rights of every single woman in this country, MAGA Republicans now want to reopen the doors for discrimination and hatred targeted against same-sex couples. Even one of the justices on the Supreme Court indicated in his opinion that gay marriage should be reconsidered by the courts. This is the future that MAGA Republicans clamor for, where women and same-sex couples are branded as second-class citizens. If they succeed, they'll take our country down a dark path from which there may be no return, although we will fight it tooth and nail. Every single American should stand in opposition against these MAGA Republican views. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.